It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers.
I have a great relationship with the Blacks. I've always had a great relationship with the Blacks.
DeBrincat gets it back to Goss. He's spinning across now. Kane. They score! Raymond!
Great spot. Johnson to throw, and it's caught by St. Brown for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go on a Tuesday afternoon. This is the earliest I think I've ever been live for the history of this channel, history of this show, certainly the history of the regular talk show. I don't think there's ever been a game. Maybe was there a noon game certainly not this year for Michigan State, but we're back. Honestly, only a little under 12 hours from when we were last live. But we got a great show to end the calendar year, a little earlier than we normally go live, but that's okay. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Lions coming off a win in San Francisco, franchise record for road record this year, 8-0, undefeated. I believe they're the only team this year that is undefeated on the road. Got the winner-take-all game next Sunday. We're going to break that down. And I got a lot more stuff to talk about with the Pistons because they're actually sort of competent. We'll talk about it. Got to talk about the Red Wings because this is old news at this point, but Derek Lalonde gets fired. Going to talk a little Tigers, I was going to say postseason, Tigers offseason, and the situation they're currently sitting at right now. And right now I'm watching as Michigan is knocking the doors off of Alabama in the ReliaQuest Bowl. It's 13-0 in just the first quarter. And that's fourth and goal now, so they're probably just going to kick the field goal. It's about to be 16-0. Sometimes there's a part of me that just wonders, like, when the SEC says it just means more, like, what do they mean by that phrase exactly? Because maybe it means something different down there than it does up here. Maybe I don't, because every indication I've seen shows me it does, in fact, not mean more. Except for that one time when Alabama destroyed Wisconsin. That one was not pretty. Not pretty. It's not 16-0 Michigan. Wow. Alabama's good for nothing. None of the teams that play the teams that I don't like are good for anything. We'll talk about that as well. But let's just get this started. It's the headline of the show. Look, as great of a win as last night was for the Lions, the most important news coming out of that game was not the final score, although that was important to finish 8-0 on the road. That's very impressive. The most important stat of the night: 0 injuries. Great success. Great success. That's all I needed. That is all I need. The result, whatever, take it or leave it. Obviously I prefer a win, but if you're going to do anything, at least don't get hurt. And nobody got hurt. Literally, there was never any injury timeouts for any Lions players. But oddly enough, there was more injury timeouts for San Francisco players. There was none, I don't think, for Detroit players. So we got out healthy. That's the most important thing to me, because obviously we'll talk about it in a little bit. I want to further break down the rest of this game, but this is the most important thing. No injuries. You're going to go into the Minnesota game without any extra, what's the word? I'm blanking on the word. Oh my gosh. I always do this whenever I'm doing a show. I always forget what words are. Adversity. I think that's the word. I don't know. We're going to go with no further adversity that you don't already have. Obviously, we're already dealing with myriads of injuries on the defensive side of the field. But no more than what you had. And maybe Alex Anzalone comes back. I don't know. Maybe Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a little more limber. It was just his first game back last night. Maybe he'll be, more ready to go. So, as far as the performance goes, it's really the tale of two sides of the football. On offense, amazing, electric, incredible. Jared Goff, another 300-plus yard game, another 3-touchdown game. Jahmyr Gibbs, 117 yards on the ground plus a touchdown. Had a 30-yard run for that touchdown. 6.5 yards per carry. Jamison Williams, 77 yards and a touchdown, plus a rushing touchdown on a little trick play as well, which was for, they say it's -2. I guess he had -2 total rushing yards, but I mean, I think it must have been a 3-4 yard run for the first score of the night. Sam Laporta also had a great game. 6 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra, 8 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. And 10 targets for Amon-Ra. So 8 for 10 on targets. So 80% success rate. That's incredible. I mean, even Allen Robinson. 1 for 1 for 21 yards. Who had Allen Robinson having a first down catch on their bingo card? Because I certainly did. I mean, this offense is just loaded. Even without David Montgomery, this offense is loaded. Heck, shout out Craig Reynolds. 31 yards on 7 carries, plus 2 catches for 35 yards. Respect. That's respectable. It's not David Montgomery level production, but it's respectable production. Jamar Jefferson, take it or leave him. He's a bit to be desired. We'll just say that. But yeah, I mean, it's just all around, top to bottom, this team offensively. And of course, obviously they dropped 40 points and they left points on the board. They had 2 missed extra points and they had a 4th down that they failed to convert on. So they left points on the board and they still got to 40 points. And on top of the fact that they were down 21-13 at the half, I want to say ESPN Analytics had it at a 77-ish% chance for San Fran to win the game at the half. Didn't matter. We went out and we completely outscored San Francisco the entire second half. 4 total touchdowns in the second half. And a 2-point conversion. So compare that to the first half, or compare the second half to the first half in terms of defensive stops. Well, for one, there were none in the first half, but the defense came up clutch at the very end. Now we'll talk about them, because overall, and while I did just give them a compliment at the very end, overall, that was terrible. That was awful. The defense was completely getting lit up. Brock Purdy had plenty of time to throw the ball. He was I think he threw 1 or 2 incompletions the entire first half. He was lighting us up. It was not good at all. Bad in the secondary, bad on the defensive line. The only thing I could say that was positive about the defense was that they stopped the run. Because what's his name? Guerrero, whatever the guy's name is, he didn't really do much in this game for San Francisco. So that was good, I guess, but everything else was bad. Brock Purdy on the night had 377 yards and he had 3 touchdowns. I mean, even Josh Dobbs, when he came in, he went 3 for 4. If you want to win the Super Bowl, you cannot play a game like that on defense, because look, maybe you can't. I don't know. Maybe your offense is just that good that it doesn't matter. You could play the worst defense in the world. The offense is just too loaded. It's too consistent. It's got too much firepower that you're going to be able to overcome that. I don't want to have to deal with that week to week. You need to be able to, for one, get to the quarterback, which, to be fair, they did near the end of the game. But secondly, you can't be leaving guys with 5, 10 feet of space after they make the catch. I love Aaron Glenn, and he's done an amazing job this year to help boost this defense, given the injuries and given the increase in some of the personnel that was brought in. But Glenn was just getting diced up, especially in that first half. It was bad. Any head coaching, interviews he might have had, seemingly locked up, I'm sure the ownership of those particular teams is looking at this game and thinking down the stretch, even with all the injuries, just how he's just kind of failed to make the adjustments. Now, granted, his players, his stars, they made the plays. Kirby Joseph, a couple of interceptions in key moments. And, sometimes that's just how it goes. I've seen plenty of Super Bowls where it was a couple of years ago, Philadelphia and Kansas City, that Super Bowl was not particularly defensive. But it came down to those final few plays made by one side or the other defensively, and maybe that's just what it's going to be for this Detroit Lions team going into the playoffs. And well, I guess not to get ahead of ourselves, we got week 18 look ahead there, but you can't afford any more injured players. For one, I like at this point, you are at the absolute limit to where you can still be, I think, a Super Bowl caliber team, albeit you're going to need your offense to do a lot of heavy lifting, and you're going to basically be forced to have to get some turnovers, maybe get some penalties that go your way, whatever it has to be. Either way, you got to get a little lucky. And you got to get a little lucky anyway, but you just don't have the guys on defense right now. Maybe you get Alex Anzalone back by the end of this regular season. But maybe by next week, Alex Anzalone will be on the field, and then, whether we win or whether we lose next week, we'll be in the playoffs. And by that point, I got to think Alex Anzalone will be out there, which would be huge for the linebacker room. But still, the secondary is very depleted. No Carlton Davis, at least until probably the NFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl. No Khalil Dorsey, who was his backup, and a decent special teams player, Khalil Dorsey. Like, we basically are throwing out guys, I don't even know who they are. Some guy, Miles Adams, got a sack last night. I don't even know who that is. I know he's not on the secondary, but I just wanted to point that out. And look, here's the thing. All of this is to say, the performance on this day, like, you could say, okay, maybe they were looking ahead a little bit. I don't know. Dan Campbell runs a pretty tight ship, but I could understand that, I suppose. Like, this game ultimately was not important in terms of the seeding. However, I will say this. This is a game you are supposed to win. And when you lose games you are supposed to win, whether the game matters for seeding, whether it's, whatever. When you lose games you're supposed to win, that can really put some doubts into your mind as a player. The Lions looked not great in that first half. No doubt about it. The second half, they turned it on both sides of the football. They didn't really allow large scoring drives. There were no punts in the entire game. So the defense was not great. There's no getting around it. But you force San Fran into a couple of field goals that Jake Moody decided he did not want to play football for money anymore, so he just sailed those every possible direction other than through the uprights. Now, on that point, before let's go on a short tangent on that, I still don't really know why Kyle Shanahan attempted a 58-yard field goal when his kicker had just missed a 53. You might as well go for it if you're trying to get some points on the board. I know that would have tied it up. I know, but 58 yards for a kicker who's missed like a million this year. And ultimately ended up, biting him in the behind, because I think we ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. I'm pretty sure, or at least we got a field goal, which, obviously changed the whole trajectory of everything. But look, all of this is to say, everything about this game was basically just, it was like the opposite of The Godfather. I suppose this is not business. This is actually personal. This is, you know what? You embarrassed us last year. We're going to embarrass you this year on national television. And then we got to go on and we got to take care of our actual business and beat Minnesota. Now, the thing about Minnesota, they have a very, very good defense. That is what is concerning. The past 2 weeks, we have played teams that largely do not have very good defenses. San Fran's got a couple of nice young guys in the secondary, especially. They got a couple of nice players in general on their defense. But overall, they're not where they were. At least not in the past couple of years. They're injured. It's just bad. It's bad in San Francisco. It's bad vibes. They were not playing for anything. Guys probably making business decisions, just being honest. Minnesota, on the other hand, has, I don't know if it's the number, it's not the number one, but I'm pretty sure it's in the top 5 in terms of defense. And we saw earlier in this year just how tight that game was on the road. This game is for all the marbles. And Sam Darnold is defying the odds. I don't think anybody going into this year thought anything of Minnesota, especially after J.J. McCarthy, their first-round quarterback, got hurt for the rest of the year. I think people thought this year was just going to be a wash. Minnesota is basically going to be tanking for another draft pick. Sam Darnold is cooked. No, that's just he proved myself and he proved a lot of people wrong. Sam Darnold is a very good quarterback in this league, at least when he's playing for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if it'll translate to wherever he ends up, if he stays in Minnesota or if he, goes to New Orleans or wherever. Gosh, if he goes to New Orleans, that's going to be bad. But either way, he's playing at a really high level, and Aaron Glenn is going to have to figure it out. Now, on the other end of it, our team is very different than it was the first time we played them. We didn't have Zadarius Smith on the defensive line. We really didn't have much of a pass rush on the defensive line at that point. Josh Paschal and Levi Onwuzurike had really not gotten going too much at that point. Yeah, I mean, especially if you had no Zadarius Smith, you had no, lead rusher there. You also didn't have Ife Melifonwu. Now, Ife Melifonwu, I want to say last week he had a sack. He didn't really do much this game, but he's kind of that plug-and-play guy that Aaron Glenn liked to use a lot last year. He was a bit of a ball hawk last year. He had a game-winning interception against Minnesota to win the division last year. Obviously a different quarterback, but similar wide receiver room to that point. On the other end of it, I believe Minnesota didn't have TJ Hawkinson in that first go-ahead for that first game. So they're going to have TJ Hawkinson. We're going to be down McNeil, Anzalone potentially, and Carlton Davis with the addition, of course, of Zadarius Smith, Ife Melifonwu, and I think maybe a few others. Sure guys were banged up that I don't remember or what have you. And obviously no Montgomery on the offensive side. Now, it's funny, though, actually thinking about it, because Montgomery actually got hurt. He actually fumbled the ball the first time we played the Vikings. So it's one of those things where, hey, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. But this just feels like it is building up to be an all-time classic game. Now, the thing is that I find so frustrating about this, and we'll get to it in a little bit when we talk about the rest of the NFL. The fact that we are 14-2, we are going to have to go 15-2 to win the division. This is the best record the Lions have ever had in the history of the franchise, and we still have not clinched the division. And it's week 18. Tomorrow is 2025, and the Lions will still not have won the NFC North. No team will have won the NFC North at that point. This is just a weird year in general for the NFL. You have a lot of teams with 10-plus wins and a lot of teams with 10-plus losses. Especially in the NFC, it seems like it's the top end is boom or bust. You got the Commanders with over 10 wins. You got the Eagles with over 10 wins. And the Vikings, the Packers, and of course the Lions. And then you got, the Panthers or the Saints or the Bears. You got a lot of teams like that. And again, this is going to be all eyes on this game. I think basically the rest of the schedule is like the NFL is pretty much just whatever. Those other games, nobody's going to care about. This is the game. Everybody in the nation is going to be watching this game. So Aaron Glenn, you better have figured something out, because Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson is not exactly my idea of a good time on a Sunday night. So I'm sure he's already reviewing the tape. I'm sure he's already making the adjustments necessary. But one thing's for sure. Next Sunday is going to be one for the ages, one way or the other. It's either going to, be a happy start to the new year for the Lions to win the division back-to-back. I think first time ever. Certainly it'd be just the second time they've won the North. But I don't think they've ever won the division twice in a row. So it is what it is. It was a good win last night, but, as Kobe Bryant once said, job's not finished. And I hate that it's not finished, and we'll get to Jordan Love in just a second, but that's all I got to say on this. Of course, I immediately splashed water on myself. That's all right. It's I have this t-shirt. I bought it a few weeks ago because I didn't have, it was too hot out at a tailgate, and I was like, I gotta go buy a t-shirt or something. So I just grabbed the first thing I found. I don't know if I would say the defense was vaunted. The special team shine. Jake Bates had a couple of nice field goals, but he also missed a couple extra points. The offense was good. The defense was it showed up at the end, had a couple of nice turnovers, but I don't know if it was a great night on all three phases. It was a great night offense, okay night on defense at best, and a good night on special teams. I'll say that. There was no punts. Stout? What does stout mean? What does that mean? I know that word, but what does that mean? Stout, of a person, somewhat fat of heavy build. Strong and thick, of an object. A kind of strong dark beer brewed with a roasted malt or barley. I mean, like, I don't. Yeah, basically, we just need to get healthy. I would not say it was a strong showing from the defense, especially in that first half. That was very bad. It was very, very bad. But at the end, you had the turnovers, you had forced field goals. They got it done. But yeah, you needed those turnovers. If you didn't get those turnovers, you probably don't win the game. Or at the very least, it's much closer. Final score does not indicate how close this game was. So, all right, let's talk a little rest of the NFL, and then we'll get to some of the other stuff here. So this week is actually kind of crazy because we got to go all the way back to Christmas. Kansas City clinches the number 1 seed with a win over Pittsburgh on Christmas. I hate this team. I hate this team so much. 15-1 on the year. There's no way they're actually gonna do it again, right? There's just no way. Okay. Like, you just look at the record and you look at their performances and their wins, and it's like there has not really been one where I'm convinced they are like way better than any of the team. Like, you had the last second win over Baltimore, you had the last second win over Cincinnati, you had the last second win over Atlanta, you had just a 1-score game against LA. You beat the Saints. That was fairly convincing. The 49ers was probably the most convincing to that point. Then you had the Raiders, who you beat by just 7. Was that the Black Friday game? No, the Black Friday game was later. Then you had the Buccaneers. That was also a close game. The Broncos, another close game. You lose, not in a blowout, but, two possession lead there for Buffalo, 30-29. The lone loss of the year. I mean, like, it's actually kind of funny because they actually didn't win a game in the preseason and they almost went undefeated. They've already clinched the 1 seed with that win over Kansas City, over Pittsburgh. We just can't escape them. This is like, it's funny because a lot of the Patrick Mahomes fans are also, I don't really understand why, but very anti Tom Brady. I guess because Tom Brady, beat Patrick Mahomes every time he played him. But like, I don't know why you gotta even compare them anyway. But it's funny now because he's like, Mahomes has entered his Tom Brady phase. Where, like, yeah, I mean, he played a good game, 3 touchdowns, 320 yards. He puts out big games like this, but he threw the ball 38 times, and his best wide receiver is his tight end Travis Kelce, who is 1,000,000 years old and will not just go away. Just get out. I want him and the whole Kansas City just leave. I'm tired of you because it's like they're just like a rash. Like, they're not fun to watch. Their star power is annoying at best. Like, Patrick Mahomes is in every single commercial for every single brand possible. I'm pretty sure we're going to see him in like a Pepperidge Farm commercial at some point. He's sponsored by everybody. Every company wants him in their commercials. And then you got the other idiot, Travis. Well, I guess Mahomes not an idiot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that about Mahomes. But Travis Kelce, he's similar in that he's also in a lot of commercials, and he's, unfortunately for the viewer, just absolutely unbearable in basically every way. On top of the fact that he's dating Taylor Swift to the chagrin of many, at least viewers of the NFL. Do they still do like the Taylor cam? Do they still do that? What is that noise? I don't know if you can see. You can probably, yeah, you can actually kind of see. It's like It's snowing outside. Pretty heavy. But anyway, I just, for the sake of the NFL, we just need the Chiefs to die. And if you're a Chiefs fan, I understand. You're 15-1. This is a great year. This is probably your best year ever. But understand this, okay? For the sake of the NFL, for the greater good, we need you to get kicked in the first round. We need you to be the Tennessee Titans a few years ago, right? Remember that when the number 1 seed Titans, they played the Bengals, and the Bengals just, they somehow won that game despite Joe Burrow getting sacked like a million times. We need that to happen to Kansas City. It's the only way. It's the only way. Now, all right, I didn't actually write this down because I had forgotten. I have to talk about what is quite possibly, and I am not trying to be, crazy, YouTube clickbait guy ever. It's really not my personality. The Seattle Seahawks and the Chicago Bears played what I truly believe to be the single worst football game in the 21st century. Maybe even going further back. Certainly in the 21st century. So, I usually don't stay up for most Thursday night games. I'll watch probably the first half, and then it's like, it's too late. I got to go to bed. I got to work tomorrow. So, I go to work, or I see the second quarter end as Seattle kicks a field goal to take the lead, 6-3. I'm like, okay, they're winning. Kind of a low-scoring game. Both these teams not very good. Maybe it becomes a little more interesting in the second half, but I don't know. I wake up the next day, and I'm doing my normal morning routine. I check my cellular telephone, and I believe I had gotten a message from Seth, who is of course the normal co-host, but unfortunately he's traveling for the holidays and is always busy with work. But normally he comes on the show, and Seth texts me saying like it was something to the effect of that was the worst game ever or something like that. I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, it was pretty bad in the first half. And I go on the NFL app and I check the score. I'm like, well, that's interesting because when I went to bed, it was 6-3. I want to find the exact number. Here we are. Okay. Wait, only 4 punts? Oh, wait, no, that's punt returns. Here we go. I was going to say, how many? I was like, no, that can't be right. Michael Dixon and Torrey Taylor, they probably had the best game of their lives. Both of these two men. Michael Dixon, he punted the ball not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4, not 5, 6 times. Torrey Taylor, on the other hand, he punted the ball not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4, not 5, not 6, 7 times. That, for those of you who are not mathematicians, is a grand total of 13 total punts. They had more total punts than combined points. I quite honestly have nothing else to say other than every team involved in this should die. Just everybody involved should be just cast away to, the deepest, darkest pits of hell where there is great wailing and gnashing of teeth. Like, Geno Smith went from, I didn't write whatever he said about I didn't write back. It's like, brother, maybe you should have wrote back because you suck. You're terrible. I don't want to see you play football ever again. If I'm Seattle, move along. You know what? Give Sam Darnold a call because there's no way he could be any worse than Geno has been. He talk about a rise and then a fall from grace. He has returned to the mean. He has returned to the real Geno Smith, to the real Eugene Smith. Okay? 160 yards, no touchdown, sacked 3 times, a 47 QBR on ESPN. That's it's not good. It's not good. I mean, it doesn't help that they had no Kenneth Walker, and he's been hurt pretty much all year. Zach Charbonnet was nothing. I was going to say good, but then I was like, no, actually, he was terrible. 57 yards on 15 carries is terrible. Your leading receiver was Noah Fant. I didn't even know he was still in the league. I'm not gonna lie. I did. How can I make sense of this? You have DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, two very good wide receivers, and your leading receiver is your tight end. How does that happen? How does that happen, Seattle? Now you won the game, so you're like, okay, well, it was a terrible game. We played awful, but you know what? You got the result you wanted, and your playoff hope is still sort of alive for now, I think. Pretty sure they're still in the playoff, or still in the hunt. Now on the other side of the football. Chicago. I tried to tell you. I've been trying to tell you all year. This Caleb Williams guy, I don't know what realm people were living in when they said this was a can't-miss talent, because all this guy does do is miss opportunities to win games. Usually he comes alive in the second half, by the time his team is down like 20 or 30 points, when it's just total garbage time, to pad his stats and trick people into thinking he's like this, high-level elite quarterback and should be in rookie of the year. No. This is the Caleb Williams that I have come to know and expect, basically. 16 for 28, 122 yards. He finally threw an interception, because that was the one thing that all the media members were granting him was, his numbers aren't that good, and he gets sacked a billion times a game, but he hasn't thrown that many interceptions. It's like, oh, well, that's great. You know how many times he got sacked today? Or on this day? Not today. He got sacked 7 times. 7 times. Get rid of the football. Do anything other than what you're doing. Throw it away. You can't do what you did last year in college in the Pac-12, where you're running around like a chicken with his head off, just trying to find the open man. That's not the NFL. This isn't a video game. You can't juke everybody. These are professional athletes. They're going to murder you when they make contact, okay? You can't do what you did. And it's so absolutely ironic, given how much quote-unquote talent this team had or has. I don't even know. I don't know if this was, obviously, Eberflus has been gone since Thanksgiving. Okay, so it wasn't just him. It might have been his whole staff. It might have been the scheme. It might have been the roster. I don't know. But going into the year, you would have thought DeAndre Swift was, Barry Sanders, basically. You would have thought DJ Moore was Jerry Rice, the way people were talking about. This was going to be some sure thing, and that Caleb Williams was walking into a great spot. And it's like, dude, if you're the Bears, you got the same record as Carolina, who you took the first overall pick from last year to get Caleb. And you know what's even worse? Is that at least Bryce Young, the last few weeks, has been showing some signs of improvement. Caleb has shown no signs of improvement. If anything, he's gotten worse. So, once again, the Bears are at a bit of an impasse where they're going to hire a new head coach who is going to be tasked with resurrecting the quarterback they just drafted. Have you heard this story before? Because this seems to happen every few years whenever they draft a quarterback. Justin Fields, Mitch Trubisky. Before that, I don't even know. They've had so many quarterbacks. It was it Jay Cutler? I don't know. Rex Grossman. They've had so many quarterbacks, and this was the one. Okay, all I heard, all off season, all draft season, this is can't miss. This guy's elite. He's a generational talent. He's going to be the next best thing. He's Mahomesian, is what I was told. And all year, the only time where I could say I ever saw anything resembling good quarterback play was when he was playing two of the worst teams in the league. That was when he played the Panthers and when he played the Jags. Those were the 2 times. I was like, all right, here we go. This is the real deal. We're going to have to deal with this as a NFC North rival to the Bears. You know what? The way he's played this year, keep him. That's fine with me, because I really just don't see any compare him to literally every other quarterback taken in the first round this year. Every single one of them has been better or has played in a much more high stakes environment and performed at a far better rate. Bo Nix is playing for a playoff spot. Drake May, his team stinks, but he's looked a whole lot better. And he's played some games where, you You see the sign, and he's playing those quality games against pretty good teams. I mean, he was up 14-0 against the Bills a couple of weeks ago. And who's the other one? Jaden Daniels. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. He's going to be rookie of the year, and he's already in the playoffs. Like, how many? The thing that bothers me is not simply that Caleb is not very good. It's the excuse making, as if, like, you can't just jump in and, we were told this guy was generational. Like, this guy was the next big thing, the future of the NFL in quarterback play. And I have no evidence to suggest that he has very long of a future in the NFL in general, let alone generational. So I know that was a lot. That was a lot of rambling about the Bears, but I had to. And next week they got the Packers. They have not won a game since before they gave up a Hail Mary. That's the last time they won a game. Unbelievable. So that's that. That's that game. I still got plenty of other games to talk about. Or at least a few of them. We got what? Yeah, two more. So Cincinnati and Denver, speaking of Bo Nix, they played a football game, technically. Now, you look at the final score, you must think, wow, this was a great game. You even look at the box score, and you're like, wow, this must have been super amazing. Two great teams going at it. Rookie Bo Nix, not a whole lot of yards, but 3 touchdowns, only sacked twice, 114 rating on ESPN, even ran for 31 yards. And then Joe Burrow on the other side, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, ran for 25 yards and a touchdown. You would think if you just looked at that score, that this was an all-time classic of two, teams that are ready and railing to get into the playoffs. No, I disagree. This was who wants to lose this game more, the game. So let me paint you a little picture. So that night, it was Saturday night. Saturday night, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to Buffalo Wild Wings. Call up or texted a few of my buddies. Only one of them was able to respond. So I'm like, okay. I'm watching this game. It's like, wow, it's getting pretty close here. Cincinnati's, taking a late lead. Okay, and it looks like they're gonna win. There's like a minute and 30 left, something like that. I'm like, okay, rookie quarterback, probably just gonna be 3 and out or something like that. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave, drive out to the restaurant, and when I get there, the game is still on, and I'm like, what? Denver scored a touchdown. And then they were primed and ready to walk this off. They're ready to kick the game winning or a leading field goal and just totally biffed it. Who's the name of the kicker? What's the name of the kicker? Where is he? Will Lutz. I guess he kicked one. He was 1 for 1 on field goals. I don't know what happened. They ended up not getting somehow there was a miss. Somebody missed a field. Oh, it was Cade York. Cade York for Cincinnati. He misses what would have been a game-winning field goal. Denver gets the ball back. Then they stifle. I was like, at this point, I'm rooting for a tie. Eventually, Cincinnati ends up winning in overtime. But I just thought that game was hysterical because these are two teams that have, in Denver's case, I think they've overperformed expectations. Cincinnati's case, obviously underperformed. But look, Cincinnati's 500. They got a chance to make the playoffs next week if they win and get some help there. So they're not totally out of it. I would not doubt a Joe Burrow-led team in the playoffs once they get hot, but obviously you got to make the playoffs. So one step at a time, I suppose. Dolphins-Browns was a great game. I'm going to be honest with you, Steven. I don't think anybody in the world other than people living in Cleveland and Miami watched that football game. I'm just going to be honest. And there was no Tua in that game. Who's the quarterback for Cleveland? That must have been one of the most. Wow. It was 20-3. That was an electric game. Electric environment. Because at that point, that was the Green Bay and Minnesota game was on at that point. So I guess if you pretty much everybody was probably watching that game just for seeding purposes. That is Miami's not eliminated, right? I think they're still in it. And I need them to get eliminated so that we can pick up Calais Campbell from them. So if you guys would just go ahead and lose, that'd be great. We're not going to pick them up until the postseason anyway. So, y'all just please get eliminated for the sake of everybody, because we know they're not winning the Super Bowl. I mean, Tyler Huntley was playing quarterback for them. That's not gonna happen. All right, I don't want to burst your bubble, but it's not gonna happen. I'm sure your bubble was probably bursted in like week 2 as a Dolphins fan. Like that when Tua threw like 6 interceptions and then his head fell off. It's like that was like the Tua experience, right? Like throwing interceptions, getting a head injury. 12 punt game. Well, at least you had scored more points than that. So that's good. Now, if you thought I was upset with Caleb Williams, just you wait. Because this final game, this is the bane of my existence. The Green Bay Packers have one job this past weekend. One job. All you got to do is beat the Minnesota Vikings on the road. Now, that's not easy. All right? It's a tough environment to play in. It's a lot of, very, very, loud fans, very indoor stadium. Don't have any weather that could favor or disfavor you. Now, the thing is, when I look at the box score, I look at the final score specifically. I'm like, oh man, just missed it. Close. And then I look at the rest of the scoring, and I'm like, if I just do some math here, let's see. It was 3-0 after 1 Green Bay. Okay, all right. You got an early lead. Not much, but it's a lead. Then 13 unanswered in the second quarter. Okay, well, that's not good. Almost 2 touchdowns. 2 field goals and a touchdown. It's not good. And then in the third quarter, 2 more touchdowns added on to Green Bay's 1 touchdown. If you're doing the math at home, kids, that's a score of 27 to 10. 27 to 10. By the end of the third quarter, it was a 17-point lead. Now, allow me to read off a few amazing stats from what I've been told is a true NFC contender, even an NFC North contender. Jordan Love. Or you know what? We'll get to him last because he gets special treatment. Josh Jacobs. Great offseason acquisition. Elite running back. 17 carries, 69 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 per carry. Romeo Doubs, who is somehow still playing football for money. 7 catches, 58 yards, no touchdown. Tucker Kraft, 2 catches for 53 yards. Pretty good, but only 2 catches. Dontavian Wicks. Genuinely don't even know who that human being is. 4 catches for 43 yards. No touchdown. Bo Melton. Who is that? Actually, this is the bit is I don't even know who that is. Who's Bo Melton? Packers fans? 3 catches for 18 yards. Jaden Reed, former Michigan State Spartan, former Peach Bowl champion with Michigan State. 1 catch, 6 yards. A masterclass. And the lone receiving touchdown goes to, you guessed it, Malik Heath. 1 catch, 3 yards, touchdown. And now, the coup de grace, the ultimate of offensive playmakers. All right? Elite quarterback, I've been told. Deserved his contract, I've been told. The future of the Green Bay Packers, I have been informed. Jordan Love, 19 for 30. 185 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 sacks. And you got to think, too, a lot of those yards are when they're down. So, he really was a lot of garbage time, really, frankly. Can I get first half numbers, even? Wish I could get first half. I don't think I can get first half. Recap? Nope. Maybe. I'm sure this recap was written by AI. So this is by AP. I think they meant AI. Let's see. Can I not get let's see, team stats? No. I can't get the half score. Needless to say, I'm pretty sure at the half, Jordan Love had less than 100 yards. He might have had less than 70 yards. You had one job. You had one job. And you went out there and played one of the most garbage, afraid of the moment, pitiful football games I've ever seen. You didn't score a touchdown until the third quarter. And when you did score that touchdown, you were already, it only cut the lead down to, by the end of the third, an amazing 17. And then you score a couple of garbage time touchdowns that mean nothing because you had to get an onside kick at the end, which naturally you do not do. Fine. We'll do it ourselves, Green Bay, because you can't even beat Minnesota, the team that you allegedly, like the Bears, you own them too. I don't know, man. The only team you beaten this year in the division is the Bears. Jordan Love got his big contract, and all he's done is played mediocre football. He's had a couple of good games. He's had a couple of nice passes, but all he's done is play the way he did the first half last year. Now, I'm, me, I hate to say I told you so, but, I remember saying, it's been it was only about a half a year where Jordan Love was really considered pretty good last year, from roughly around Thanksgiving onward to that playoff run. Yeah, Jordan Love putting up some pretty nice numbers, but I was well, I don't know, which Jordan Love are we going to get? Which one's the real one? And I think we got our answer. I think we did. I think the real one was the one who started the year. The one who is not clutch, is not overall effective. His numbers, even in totality, don't look good. He is the gift that does not keep on giving. He's he's the gift that keeps on taking. That's what he is. He's the gift who much is asked and nothing is gained. I just, every year, all right? Every year, it just seems like there's always that player that during the offseason, the media or fans, they just immediately coronate. After 1 year, they're like, okay, this guy's legit. I remember it happened with Jimmy Garoppolo. It happened with, it just happened with CJ Stroud. I'm trying to think of who else. I don't remember if it happened with Mitch Trubisky, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Every year you kind of have these guys who maybe they resurrect their careers. Maybe they're, rookies who finally have a good year, whatever the case may be. And this year, it was a few people, but this year especially, it was Jordan Love. I remember listening to people saying this guy could go and win the MVP, that he was that good, that he showed so much poise, that he was the future of Green Bay, that they had once again nailed the quarterback. Maybe they did nail the quarterback, but I don't think the word nailed means what they think it means. I think they may be mistaken as to the definition of that word. So, yeah, very happy for Green Bay to utterly blow it in a moment where we need them to assist us to have a casual, comforting, normal week 18. But instead, we got to go out and do it ourselves. So fine, we'll show you next Sunday how we do it. And if we don't do it, then I'll look like an idiot. But at least we will have beaten you twice and beaten Minnesota on the road at least once. So there's that. So thanks, Green Bay. Thanks for absolutely nothing. Oh my God. There was a second and 21. How did that happen? I guess you get sacked or something. 4th and 24. Okay, I guess I could see that. Especially with some of these, you had a 3rd and 20. 3rd and 17. I could see how these things would emerge. That's not fun. Myles Garrett must have had fun. But about it. All on different. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. All right. So before we get to a few of the other local teams here, before we get to the Wings and to the Pistons and the Tigers, I want to just briefly talk about the college football playoff because actually round 2 is starting tonight. You have the New Year's Eve game between Penn State and Boise State. Now, here's the thing, all right? I have made this relatively clear that I am not a fan of the college football playoff in general. I would prefer we just go back to BCS, just go back to the bowl games. Much more enjoyable, made college football special. You know, every team kind of played their own little bowl game, and it meant something, right? It meant something to the players. It meant something to the teams. You know, it was a little like, no, you know, winning the Capital One Bowl was not winning the national championship, but it meant something to those smaller teams that otherwise really do not have much of a shot at winning the national championship. But I decided, you know what? That's okay. I'm gonna be open-minded for the college football playoff. I'm gonna keep an open mind. Right, I'm gonna let these they're gonna be in the college state. It's gonna be in home field games. You know, playoff college football in on campus. All right, so let's keep an open mind. All right, so Friday night, I was ready. Indiana Notre Dame in-state game. All right, this could be interesting. Maybe Indiana fans travel. You know, maybe whatever. Maybe we could have an interesting game. Notre Dame non-conference team. They don't really play a lot of in-conference opponents. Indiana, a bit of a surprise team this year to even make the playoff, let alone be the 10th seed. And they ended up getting blown out. Don't listen to that. Don't look at that final score because that did not indicate how utterly not close this game was. I went to bed. I was like, okay, that's fine. You missed one. That's fine. That's not a big deal. All right. We move along. All right. Then we had SMU and Penn State. And SMU threw 2 pick sixes. I had to get my oil changed in my car. So I was just watching the game on my phone on the YouTube TV app. I was like, oh, well, all right. I'm glad I'm not missing anything major. This is just kind of a blowout of a game. And Penn State ends up winning 38-10. I'm like, okay, well, you know, two bad games, but that's all right. Maybe we got Clemson and Texas. That could be a good game. That game was 38-24, and once again, do not look at that final score because that does not indicate how not close this game was. Finally, we get to the end of the night. And at this point, I'm a beaten, battered housewife, right? I'm in total denial. I'm like, no, this will be good. All right, Tennessee, SEC team, they've been talking all this smack. It's 9 and 8 seeds, so very evenly, very close teams. Penn State, Ohio State drops a 40 bomb on them and wins the game 42-17. And my question is this. Was this just a waste of time? Did we need any of this? Literally 0 of these games were good. 0 of them. There was not a single game that was worth watching. Like, the closest thing you could call a game was maybe the Notre Dame-Indiana game, but that game was utterly boring and not close in any meaningful sense. What was the purpose of this? Other than the schools make a bunch of money to play a meaningless game. It's not like it was a bowl game. Like, they don't win anything. They just go to the new bowl, to the actual bowl games in the playoffs. So, look, if I'm college football, if I'm, the TV networks, I'm probably shaking in my boots at this point because the worst thing you can have for a playoff is every game basically sucking. And the thing is with college football, like, you have so many, like, uneven matches. Like, part of the appeal a little bit of college football is that, like, it's not perfectly evenly matched. So you have teams that in the national championship, I mean, we saw it a few years ago, Georgia knocked the doors off of TCU. They really shouldn't have been playing TCU in the national championship. If they were going to be playing anybody, they probably should have been playing Michigan, right? Like, and I'm saying that's a Spartan saying that, all right? They should have been playing Michigan. They shouldn't have been playing TCU, but TCU manages to, outcoach Michigan basically. And so instead we get a terrible national championship which would have otherwise potentially been a much better game if Michigan would have played that game. All that being said, like, we are now dealing with multiple of these games. I mean, like, tomorrow, we got at 1 o'clock Texas, Arizona State. Arizona State was an interesting story. You know, Sam Levitt, former Spartan, led Arizona State to a conference championship. Very fun story. I think Texas is going to murder them. I don't think it's ever going to be close. Like, it's probably going to be like 21-3 at the half or something like that. And then maybe have a good game between Ohio State and Oregon that afternoon at 5 o'clock on New Year's Day. That game, okay, sure. The problem I have with this is Oregon already beat Ohio State. Why do they have to play them again to quote unquote prove that they're actually a national championship team? Like, they did it already. All right? Like they are the number one team in the country, the only undefeated team in the country, and you're telling me that basically they could end this year with nothing. Like, they win the Big Ten. I guess they got that. But, like, you're telling me they're not playing for the national championship on New Year's Day or, you know, the weekend of New Year's Day or whatever, like it used to be? I'm sorry. That's just absurd to me. And I don't know what this Penn State-Boise State game is going to be. Again, Boise State, fun story. Ashton Johnson, one of the best running backs this year. Going to be playing on Sundays, all the fun stuff. Penn State is a boring-ass team, all right? Drew Aller is not good. Drew Aller is not a very good quarterback. They're a defensive team primarily. So I maybe Boise State surprises us, and this is actually a good game. And then you got Notre Dame, Georgia, and what's his name? Carson Beck is already hurt. I'm pretty sure. Like, he's already declared for the NFL draft, and I'm pretty sure he's hurt. It's been a total waste of time. And all the people who were defending the college football playoff saying, look, we got all these great matchups, all these other teams. Guys, we're, 1, 2, 3, 4 games in, and we're 0 for 4, basically. So you better hope that tonight, Penn State, Boise State is a good game, because that would at least swing the momentum towards the direction of this actually being a good idea. But the thing is, at that point, why wouldn't you just have made it 8 teams to begin with? And the thing is, they're never going down. All right? I've learned this from the NFL, and I've learned this from most sports. They never drop the amount of teams in the playoffs. All right? I've never seen it. And I'll give credit where credit is due. If any, chairman or whoever of any sports league actually does this, because it's getting ridiculous in all the leagues, except for maybe the NHL. Like, I would give them credit if that individual says, all right, we're actually cutting the amount of playoff games, because that's a risk of money, right? You're losing money because you get less playoff games, less national TV games, and you're potentially risking the product not being viewed as much in general. But anyway, that was just I just wanted to briefly talk about that. So yeah. All right, got a lot of chat messages from Detroit fan here, so let me read through these. Lions going to knock out the Vikings like the Tigers knocked out the Twins. I hope so. MSU hockey winning the Great Lakes Invitational for the first time since 2009, first beating Northern Michigan 2-0, then beating number 4 Western Michigan 3-1. That's pretty cool. I don't follow college hockey, but I know Trey Augustine and Red Savage, 2 Wings prospects, both on that team. MSU hockey still doing well. Trey Augustine not in net. Oh, he's not playing. Oh, okay. Hopefully it can continue against Wisconsin in the outdoor game in Chicago. It's interesting they're playing outdoors in Chicago, and it's Wisconsin, Michigan State. CFP was 75% of the time blowouts, and all they did this year was make that rate go up. I agree totally. TCU, Michigan was stealing signs. They changed theirs last second. No, what are you talking about? Signs, it didn't even affect Michigan. I've been told that the only reason that people are upset about it is because they root for the other school. That's the only reason. Not because it gave any advantage. They didn't do it for the advantage. They did it because they just worked too hard. That's Michigan's biggest flaw, is they work too hard. I'm getting a bunch of messages. All from... I took the day off of work, but I still have my Microsoft Teams on my phone, so I'm just getting a bunch of messages. I don't know what people are talking about. Hopefully it's not too bad. All right. Okay. Let's talk a little Tigers, okay? So, let me just see if I can pull up rumors. I don't know. All right, this works. So, recently, I saw this post on Bleacher Report. I mean, well, okay, let's start over, okay? Talking a little bit of Tigers. Offseason right now is two guys, Alex Cobb, Gleyber Torres. We'll talk about these guys individually. All right, first, let's talk Alex Cobb. All right. Alex Cobb is going to be 37 years old. He's a one-time All-Star pitcher back in 2023. He's got a career ERA of 3.84 and a career WHIP of 12.73 in just a little over 1,300 innings pitched. Last year, he really didn't pitch a whole lot. He was hurt for most of the year. He came back in the playoffs, did not perform well. I can just pull up those numbers for you now. He had a 7.94 ERA in the playoffs. Yeah, he got lit up, basically. He pitched 5 innings and gave up like 1 million runs. It was not good. It was not good. Tigers go ahead and sign him to a 1-year deal. Now, the reason I'm not, yelling and screaming about something like this in either direction is because, well, the Tigers have shown an ability to rehab basically any pitcher. Michael Lorenzen, before he got here, did not really have any record of success. Jack Flaherty, when he got here, he was seen as kind of a wash. He was seen as, a bust a little bit, didn't live up to his potential. And both those guys ended up being very good pitchers. In the case of Michael Lorenzen, he was an all-star pitcher. In the case of Jack Flaherty, he ended up getting traded for a couple of nice prospects there for Detroit and won a World Series with the Dodgers. With Alex Cobb, my only concern is, well, he's going to be 37, and that's your lone pitching addition so far in the offseason. I mean, we still have yet to sign Skubal. We still have yet to bring in any other meaningful pitcher. I mean, Walker Buehler has already been signed. Corbin Burns has already been signed. I don't even know who else is out there at this point. A lot of the quality pitchers that you would have wanted that were bigger names, they're not there anymore. So you're basically just stuck with Alex Cobb and the rest of your rotation. Now, look, Tarik Skubal can carry a rotation. We saw it last year. But Kader Montero, maybe he develops a little bit there. And Jackson Jobe, he's going to be, I hope that he will be up and ready to go as he was last year. But, there's still some holes in the pitching. You can never have too many pitchers is generally the principle. Because even if, say, some of these guys don't make the team or whatever, that means that you just got some depth. You got maybe a guy you can throw in the bullpen, maybe a guy who can, be an opener, something like that. But yeah, Alex Cobb doesn't do much for me. Now, Gleyber Torres, on the other hand, I kind of like. 2-time All-Star, and both of them with the Yankees a couple of years back in 2018 and 19. He was with the Yankees his entire career. Very solid player. Last year, he had a 257 average, 15 homers, a 101 OPS, so above league average in terms of that, a 1.8 WAR player. Is he potentially at the twilight of his career? Maybe. He's in the prime. He's just 27 coming off of those numbers. He's never been, a Giancarlo Stanton in his prime or an Aaron Judge in his prime, but he's a solid player. He plays second base. He's going to be playing second base for Detroit. He's a good infield depth player. Again, I mean, career average, 265, 112 OPS. A solid addition. Immediately becomes one of your best bets, which is not exactly a endorsement of your offense. However, the thing that makes me less happy about it is they signed him to a 1-year deal. And to me, this just feels like plug and play. We're not going to invest in any major free agent. we're really not even going to invest in any individual player to begin with. Because once again, we have yet to sign Tarek Skubal or Riley Green or, any of the young players who are going to be asking for a lot of money. Riley Green, all-star year last year, a very good outfielder, probably your best hitter. And Gleyber Torres, again, he's not super young, but he's also not ancient. I mean, I would have expected a little bit more. Now, here's the thing. Right now, the Tigers are in talks. They're allegedly pursuing Alex Bregman. And they're also allegedly pursuing Anthony Santander. Here's the thing, and this is actually the question. And Detroit fan, you actually nailed it. Is this a Scott Harris or a Chris Ilitch? Now, one thing I do know, both the Chris Ilitch-owned teams, and we'll get to the Red Wings in just a second, both of them seem to have the same mindset. You notice that? It's always, well, we don't want to give out term. Well, wait for the kids to get here. Well, we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. Always kind of pushing things further and further and further and further back to where by the time the kids, quote unquote, or whatever, by the time that happens, you're already, year 5. Look, whether Scott Harris likes it or not, whether Chris Ilitch likes it or not, this is a team that just went to the playoffs, that was 1 win away from an ALCS berth for the first time since 2013. A team that very well, if they make the right moves, could win the division. Something, by the way, they haven't done in 10 years. It'll be 11 by the time the season starts. This nonchalant, this no sense of urgency approach, to me, it's insulting to the fan. What you're saying is, oh, you silly little peasant fan, you don't understand. We don't want to get tricked into believing that we can actually be competitive year to year by, signing good players or by making nice and underrated trades to pick up talent in other meaningful ways. No. Don't you understand? You have to wait for insert prospect. You have to wait for Jackson Jobe to get here. You have to wait for Max Clark to get here, for Kevin McGonigal. Don't you stupid little peasant. You don't understand. We're way smarter than just wait until Tyron Lorenzo or Trey Sweeney or any of these guys. Just you wait. And to me, that's the attitude. And Scott Harris is not an idiot, obviously. He's been able to sign some pretty nice free agents. Again, Michael Lorenzo was a nice pickup. Jack Flaherty was a nice pickup. Even, a guy like Carson Kelly, he was a decent enough catcher for us that we were able to trade him and get some prospects for him, get some value for him. And obviously, even in the guys that he did get in the trade, Trey Sweeney was an effective shortstop for us in that short term. And the development of guys like Parker Meadows and Riley Green and obviously Tarek Skubal shows that there's some positive things going on for the Tigers. But meanwhile, this is exactly right. Ilitch is busy adding high seating and suites at Comerica Park. When we haven't had a big free agent signing since Javi Baez. And I don't know if this is true. I've heard this is the case, that there is a sense that the reason why Chris Ilitch is unwilling, presumably, to spend is because he doesn't want to get burned by Javi. He doesn't want to get burned like he did when he signed Javi Baez. And if you live that way, you're never going to win a World Series. Not going to happen. Okay? You know who doesn't live that way? The Dodgers, the Yankees. You know what? You know what the Dodgers are going to do if Yamamoto, the guy that they signed just this past offseason, and he didn't play that much because he was hurt. You know what they're going to do if he ends up playing like garbage? They're going to cut him. They're going to buy out his contract, and they're going to find his replacement, either in their own prospect pool because they got great development in LA, but also in free agency or trades. You know what the Yankees are going to do if, I don't know, who did they just sign? Cody Bellinger? You know what they're going to do if that doesn't work? Buy him out. See ya. We'll find somebody else to play center field or play right field or wherever he's going to play. first base. We don't do that around here. If we sign a bad guy and he ends up stucking, well, we're stuck with him. We're stuck with him for the entirety of the contract even. We could have, this would have been much more unpopular, but it probably would have been for the betterment of the team. We could have bought out Miguel Cabrera in those last few years of his contract when he was really not good and pretty much only playing DH. We could have bought out Javi Baez to end the season this past year because, he gets hurt. He's done for the season. Trey Sweeney's out there playing shortstop at a much better level than Javi Baez ever did. And even with those other guys, Austin Meadows, that one, that's its own discussion. Eduardo Rodriguez was a good player for us. It was a terrible contract because he just had a bail or an opt-out. But Eduardo Rodriguez was a pretty good player, at least for the year and a half or so that we actually got him. If you don't trust Scott Harris when he's telling you if you sign this guy, it'll work out, why did you even hire Scott Harris? Why didn't you just be the one who scouts the players and decides who to sign and who not to sign? This guy is a baseball mind. He's been, an understudy of what's his name out in Chicago? I can't think of it. Theo Epstein. And he was an understudy of the guys out in San Francisco. Yeah, he has a resume of knowing baseball. All right. And I'm sure the guys that he's drafted, I'm sure they're going to be fine enough prospects. Maybe not superstars, maybe not, best players in the league. Maybe some of them will be. I don't know. Either way, the thing that I can't stand is the unwillingness to take any large step to show the city, to show the league that, no, last year was not just a fluke. We're a real team. We got some really nice young players in Parker Meadows, in Riley Green, in Tarek Scoop, even in guys that we're still sort of waiting on to see if they might pan out. Guys like Casey Mize, Spencer Torkelson, Cater Montero. There's a lot to be excited about from the perspective of the young players on this team. But if your offseason is 1 year of Alex Cobb and 1 year of Gleyber Torres, I'm not interested in that product. I'm just not. You're gonna have to show me something else. On the other end, of course, this interest in Santander and Bregman. Look, one of those two. If you get one of those two, and then maybe you sign another pitcher, maybe you end up with Sasaki. I don't know if that's going to work out. I'd like one more pitcher for sure, and I'd like a big name bat. Bregman would be my first pick, but Santander would be a nice pickup as well. I think he would fit perfectly for Detroit. So we'll see if this ends up working, if this ends up actually happening. But unfortunately, I just have my doubts because I don't know if it's Scott Harris. It might be. I don't know if it's just Chris Ilitch. It might be. Either way, the combination of the two, it does not appear to me, at least, that there is any sense of urgency in Detroit. So maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. They don't seem to. You know what? You just say, I don't know who is our third baseman. Nobody knows. Matt Vierling. Next. So, all right. So after that positive experience, we do have a couple more teams to talk about. Now, these teams, this is going to be one segment, okay? Because I think these two Detroit teams, I think, need to be compared. Because I don't know. I thought of it over the past weekend and week. I was like, this feels like I need to talk about this. Okay. So first what I'm going to do this. All right. I'm going to be nameless to either of these teams. We're going to take away the face, take away the brand, take away whatever. Let's say your team number one. Team number one has matched the win total from last year. It's currently 10th in the conference. Has a brand new coach. And their high draft pick of a couple of years ago is leading them in scoring and is potentially having an all-star year. Okay? That's team number 1. All right? Team number 2 is not where they were last year. In fact, they are worse than where they were last year. Currently, they are 7th in their division. I believe they're second to last in the conference. They have fired their head coach and since brought in a new head coach. And their leading scorer is also a draft pick from a few years ago. So also having a all-star caliber year. And here's my question. Which team would you say is doing better overall? Like, which team would you say you have more confidence going forward? If you said Team A, you would be talking about one Detroit Pistons. If you said Team B, you would be talking about the Detroit Red Wings. Now, let me further add some context. The Pistons, going into this year, had the worst season of their franchise the prior year. They had basically no real defined talent to that point. They had, Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, but outside of those guys, you weren't really sure what you had really to take advantage of. They had just fired their head coach. They had just brought in a new general manager. And again, it was the Pistons. Like, there was just very little sense that there was anything good going on. They bring in free agents that really most people, if you just name them, really had no interest in. Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. Really not a whole lot of excitement there. However, the Pistons this year obviously they're not the best team in the conference, but they're currently in the play-in, and they're playing pretty competent basketball. Like, dare I even say the Pistons are a fun team to watch because it's thrilling basketball for one. They'll play close games. They'll play comeback games. They'll play, overtime games. They'll play all kinds of games. It's a lot of fun basketball in Detroit. Cade Cunningham is playing at an all-star level. Cade Cunningham is really good. 24 points a game, 6 boards a game, 9 assists a game, almost a double-double average on the year for Cade Cunningham. Tobias Harris, take him or leave him. He's been an okay vet. He's had games where he's really good. He's had games where he's really not that good. Jaden Ivey, he's another one kind of coming into his own there. He's got 17 points a game, shooting 73 from the field. Let's see, 3-point percentage is a little higher than Cade's actually. It's 39%, so almost 40% from the field goal or from the 3-point. So the shots have improved for both Cade and for Jaden Ivey. And you also have additions, the other additions in the offseason. Malik Beasley, he's your leading 3-point shooter, 18% from 3. He's been really fun to watch. Tim Hardaway Jr., former Michigan Wolverine basketball player. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's been a solid addition as well. He's got 10 points a game, a couple of rebounds a game, an assist a game, but shoots about 36% from 3. So you got a lot of fun players. And then even, some of the younger guys in Jalen Duren, he's also not, blowing you out of the water, but he shows those flashes, right? You have upside with a guy like Jalen Duren. You have upside with a guy like Ivy and Cunningham, of course. Even, you know what? Shout out my man Isaiah Stewart. He's been a pretty solid bench presence for Detroit. The counting stats leave you a bit to be desired, but he's 23 years old, and he's been a solid bench player for Detroit. Like, being able to come in and, sort of like hold the line a little bit. Even Simone Fontecchio, he's another one, guy that we acquired in the trade deadline last year, and he's been pretty solid. Ron Holland has been a fun player to watch. Asar Thompson, still not good shooter. Neither is Ron Holland. But at the very least, they can at least be kind of fun to watch at times. And you're even seeing some production from some of the other guys that are deeper in this team, like Paul Reed, who, frankly, he might take more minutes just because he's been pretty solid overall. Now, are any of these guys superstars other than Cade and maybe Ivy? No, but they're fun. They're enjoyable. All right. Now, let me flip to the Red Wings, who just fired their head coach and who have basically 4 good players. Now, here's the thing. If I just go through the offseason additions of Trajan Langdon versus any addition that Steve Yzerman has made to the Red Wings, despite their not counting draft picks, boy, oh boy, it is a world of difference. Okay? Like, let me run this down, okay? Here were the main offseason additions for Trajan Langdon this offseason, okay? Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. Those are your big 3 additions. And, of course, the hiring of JB Bickerstaff, okay? So those are your 3 additions to the Pistons. And that is immediately little bit of a fire under the Pistons to the point where they could very well be in the play-in if they continue to play at the level that they're playing. On the other end of it, and now granted this is over much more offseason, Trajan Langdon just hired. Outside of draft picks, this is what you've gotten from Steve Yzerman. JT Compher, Patrick Kane, Andrew Kopp, Vladimir Tarasenko, Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie, Eric Gustafson, Christian Fisher, and Justin Hall, and a few others, whose names I'm not even going to give the decency to call. Tell me which one of those guys is even remotely good. Maybe Patrick Kane? One problem, he's 36 years old. So he's not going to be here, in theory, when the quote-unquote kids get here. Right? So there's that. On top of that, the coach that Steve Yzerman hired, need I remind Red Wings fans who continue to make excuses for him, he hired Derek Lalonde, has since been fired after not 1, not 2, but now 3 collapses in his time as a coach. He collapsed in December his first year. He collapsed in February, or actually 4. He collapsed in December his first year. He collapsed in February his first year as well. Then he collapsed in December again in his second year. Then he collapsed in late March last year. And then this year, he once again collapsed in December. And now we bring in Todd McClellan, who is at least an experienced head coach, but he's 1-1, got blown out in his first game, and then a much better win over the Capitals, I suppose. Yeah, DeBrincat is the lone guy. I didn't count him. Okay, DeBrincat is the lone guy because he was a trade acquisition. That's a good call, Detroit fan, man. DeBrincat is the lone guy that I would say that was a hit for Steve Yzerman in terms of free agency and trades. Every other one has basically been terrible. Patrick Kane last year was fun. Patrick Kane this year, not fun. Not fun. Very not fun. I want to go back to last year's Patrick Kane. Can we get that guy on our team? JT Compher has 17 points in 29 games. And you know what makes it all the more worse? Is a lot of the guys that Steve Yzerman, now whether or not this was a good idea at the time or whether or not I agree with that, let's just leave all that aside. The guys that have left, either Steve Yzerman trading them or whatever, many of them are doing better. Jake Wallman looks pretty good in San Jose. Granted, he's playing in San Jose. He's the top line guy. He wouldn't be a top line guy. Whatever. You have a terrible defense, and he was a defenseman. Part of the reason your defense is terrible is because you don't have guys like Jake Wallman. You also have, I'm blanking on the guy's name. Oh my gosh, Philip Hronek, who is a really solid player out in Vancouver. Now, again, should we have kept Philip Hronek at the time? I don't know. Maybe not. The point is, guys leave, they play very well. Guys we bring in do not play very well. Outside of the draft picks. And outside of a 28-year-old Dylan Larkin, who is the captain of this team, and playing at a point or roughly, a little under a point per game. He's showing signs of slowing down. I'll just say that. And like, your only good defenseman is Moritz Seider. Like, this to me, like, you couldn't script a more like obvious case of, okay, General Manager A, immediately I trust him more in the Pistons versus General Manager B, who has shown me very little reason to trust. Like, to me, this is so... These two teams are indicative of the chain of how a big name, a guy that you love in Steve Yzerman, does not mean a lick of crap. Okay, it doesn't mean nothing when it comes to actually being able to put together a winning team. Because on the other end of it, we might have a play-in team in year one of Trajan Langdon. Scott Harris has already made the playoffs. Brad Holmes speaks for himself. Steve Yzerman came in roughly around the same time as Brad Holmes, a year before, actually. Brad Holmes was brought in after the 2020 season. The Pistons just fired their general manager before and got a new one who has immediately seemingly done more. Now, is Trajan Langdon going to go on to lead the Pistons to winning an NBA championship? I don't know. Is Steve Yzerman eventually going to redeem himself? Is Tom McClellan going to be the guy who lights a fire under this roster and they go on a run and they end up making the playoffs? I don't know. I hope so. But here's the thing. You've already hired 2 head coaches. You know what you're not going to do, Steve Yzerman? Hire a third. That's going to be done by your replacement. So this guy, Tom McClellan, better be your last head coach. And furthermore, I don't want to hear any more of this, we're not giving out term, or patience, or this is the only way to do it. He gave a press conference where he said the expectation going into this year was that if everything went well, this was a team that could make the wild card. And I just thought to myself, wow, make the wild card. Boy, what a life you get to live, Steve Yzerman. Make the wild card? Buddy, we're 5 years in. Make the wild card should have happened like last year. But the coach that you hired, by the way, blew that largely. On top of the fact that it was the roster that you built. Sucked. And continues to suck. So, we are at a bit of an impasse. Going into the next calendar year, the Pistons look like a very good team. Or not a very good team. A very improved team. A team that is shown to jump up. And you might say, oh, well, the Pistons, they got lottery luck. They got 1 number 1 overall pick. I don't want to hear about lottery luck. And don't give me the lottery with Steve Yzerman. I do not care. You have 4 guys on your team that you have drafted. All of them in the first round. Where are all these late additions that Steve Yzerman is supposed to be really good at? Like, this is exactly right. We keep hearing about a bunch of stuff with these prospects. Where are they? I don't care about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Let me say this again. I don't care about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Let me say it one more time for the hockey nerds who don't understand. I do not care about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Nobody with a life cares about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Okay? Nobody outside of the city of Grand Rapids cares about the Griffins. Okay? They could win 1 million games. They could lose every game of the year. I don't care. And guess what? You know what's funny? It's amazing. When the Red Wings were really good, you know, when they were actually developing players that were coming up and making immediate impacts, you know what's interesting? They were winning at the NHL level too. It wasn't just wait until Chris Lindstrom gets here. Just wait until Henrik Zetterberg gets here. Just wait until Pavel Datsyuk. No, you see, because they were winning. They were actually good. Only losers do the wait until the kids get here. That's what losing teams do. That's what the Buffalo Sabres do. That's what the Montreal Canadiens do. That's what the San Jose Sharks do. That's what the Chicago Blackhawks do. And guess what? You're in their camp. One problem. Those teams are just starting some of their rebuilds. In the case of the Blackhawks or the Sharks. You, on the other hand, are 5, going to be 6 years in. And there is nothing. Yeah, Axel Sandy, he's so good, he's not even at Grand Rapids. That's how good he is. He's so good, he can't even play in the AHL, apparently. Maybe he could. I don't know. You know what I want? I want a little bit of boldness. And I was texting my brother this. You know what I would want? how about you do this? How about you take your Pelicas, you take your Trey Augustines or whoever, these top prospects, these allegedly really good players, you package those up, and you go out and you get a real superstar. Like a guy who can actually play at the NHL level, and you call up some of the other kids, and you bring in the alleged depth that we have built in our farm system, and you go out and you make a run for a playoff spot. And you know why I know that's not going to happen? Because this team is immune to risk. The only risk we're willing to take is on garbage players like Andrew Kopp. That's the only players that we'll take a risk on. We will never take a risk that actually means meaningful changes because we don't want to speed things up. We don't want to give out term. Not giving out term is going to be the very reason that Steve Yzerman does not keep his job for the next 2 years. If we're even giving it, the fact that I'm giving him 2 years tells me everything I need to know. Apparently, evidently, first round pick. You know what's funny? You know what teams don't have to deal with this? Like the Flyers, who Matvei Michkov is already there and already a very good player. Interesting. Oh, but he was a Russian player. You're asked. Yes, I'm asking for us to actually have real players that we draft on our team. Okay? If these players are so good, they would be on the NHL roster. Because who are they competing with? Vladimir Tarasenko? Ben Sherratt? Jeff Petrie? Christian Fisher? Bum number 3, bum number 2, and bum number 1? Tired of it. I'm tired of the low standards in this city for the hockey team that is probably the most successful team in this city. Like it's the only team that in my lifetime was like perennially, I guess the Pistons were for that for a while, but we're perennially basically winning championships. Yeah. I mean, maybe if they want to take a risk, Detroit fan, man. But unfortunately, again, immune to risk. And also, evidently immune to winning. But you know what? You get a little bit of a restart. Because Todd McClellan's coming in. Maybe he's going to be good. I don't know. I don't got a whole lot of hope in that. Because I don't think the groceries are good. So you can change the chef, but the tomatoes got mold on it. And the chicken is 12 weeks old. So you can do whatever you want with the coach. This is the last straw for Steve Yzerman. And you compare and contrast it with the Pistons. Night and day. Night and day. Yeah, don't rush him. Don't rush Kosa. Wouldn't want to do that. Wouldn't want to apply a little bit of pressure on our alleged future. Yeah, wouldn't want to do that. Anyway, that's all I got for that. I got a lot of chats here, so I'm going to just try to read through a lot of these. Based on how they were last year, the fact that they are 14 and 18 and 10th of the East is a good thing. Yep, talking about the Pistons. Absolutely right, Detroit fan. Only took 2 decades, but the Wings are now the worst team in Metro Detroit. The Lions are a juggernaut. The Pistons and Tigers are actually now rebuilding and developing. Cannot believe it. Yeah. Some of the wins this year, you wouldn't even expect last year's team to even do. The game against Sacramento was a clear example. Yep, absolutely. There are still some bad losses. Yeah, 76. Yeah, that was bad. Ron Holmes and the free throws. That was rough. That was pretty bad. Kane is on and off. One momentum, he's one moment he's looking like his old self, and then the next 5 games he's without a point. Yeah, that's true. We did another hit, but we traded him. We did have another hit, but we traded him. Wallman, yeah, story of my life. One was a cap casualty. Be able to re-sign Raymond and see, but you wouldn't have a cap problem if you didn't sign Andrew Kopp and Vladimir Tarasenko and Jeff Petrie. Also, Joe Veleno and Jonathan Berggren, who were also restricted free agents, so there was still a way to keep Wallman and re-sign. Yeah, and both of those guys, Veleno and Berggren, suck. They're awful. Kind of sucks. My favorite Wings won't play for another 1 to 2 seasons. Sandine Pellikka is ball. See, the fact that your favorite Red Wing is not even on the team That is everything I need to know about this team. That there is no sense of it's the same thing with the Tigers a little bit, where it just feels like there's no sense of urgency. Keep hearing all the prospects. So far, ever since Yzerman took over, only 4 prospects have made the team and have had at least a role on this team. Sider, Raymond, Edvinson, and Casper. And I mean, Casper, he's going to take some time, evidently, because he really has not done a whole lot. Edvinson has been solid enough. It was really just Sider and Raymond. If we're really being honest with ourselves, the 2 guys that, if you asked other NHL fans, hey, would you like Edvinson or Casper right now on your roster? I think if you ask the contenders, they'd say, we don't really need them. Axel could make the jump. Where's Nate Danielson? Lost in Grand Rapids. Kosa, I want to keep him in Grand Rapids because of the lacking defensive wings. See, the problem is, though, when is going to be the right time to bring him up? I mean, is he going to be brought up with the package of all the defensemen? With like a bunch of the. I mean, like Amadeus Lombardi. I've been hearing about this guy forever. Where is he? We already brought up Albert Johansson. Okay, he hasn't done much of anything. He's been a -6 player on the year. That's how some of these prospects end up. But don't tell Red Wings fans that, because then you're just a hater and you don't know hockey. You know what? If I don't know hockey, I want to know what Steve Yzerman knows. All right. So that's basically it. So now, it's that time of the show, guys. It's finally the final week of the NFL season. It is finally time for the final edition of the picks. Hit the music. There we go. All right. A little quiet. All right. Here we go. Final week of the year. Week 18 starts on a Saturday. We got Browns at the Ravens. Seth is taking the Ravens. Yeah, you got to take the Ravens here. I don't even know who the Browns have starting at quarterback at this point, but it's probably not good. Probably not good. So, yeah, give me the Birds. I got nothing else to say about that. Bengals at the Steelers. Seth is taking the Kitty Cats. The Bungles get the win. Man, I really want to take the Bengals. I really do. Yeah, we'll take the Bengals. Why not? Joe Burrow's playing really well. I mean, just last week he had like 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, granted, I don't know if the rest of his team wants to win, but I don't know. This could be the game to watch on Saturday night, because Bengals are fighting for a playoff spot. Steelers, I think they're fighting for the division if they haven't already clinched it. So yeah, a lot of big games this weekend or on Saturday for that AFC North title. Speaking of big games, Panthers at the Falcons. Seth is taking the Dirty Birds. Yeah, I gotta agree with him there. Not a whole lot positive to say about the Panthers at this point. Bryce Young maybe developing a little bit, but yeah, Michael Penix, he's looked okay. He's been solid. Certainly has more of a future with Atlanta than Kirko, so maybe there's a little bit of a spark there in Atlanta. Give me the Dirty Birds. I got nothing more to say. Commanders at the Cowboys. Seth is taking the Commies to get the win here. Yeah, Cowboys are checked out and already heading to Mexico. They are not interested in playing football for money anymore. So, yeah, give me the Commanders. I think this is going to be a pretty easy win. They've already clinched the playoffs. I don't know if there's any seed changes they could have, so maybe we'll see them bench Jaden Daniels potentially. I doubt it, though. I think they're just going to play this game fully. Bears at the the Packers, excuse me. Seth is taking the Pack. Yeah, at this point, I don't know if the Bears are ever going to win another game. It's bad. Last week's game, we talked about that game in Seattle. That was terrible. That was just pitiful. I think the Packers at home, they're just going to have their way with them. I don't think this is going to end well for Caleb Williams. Rough rookie year for the number 1 overall pick. You just hate to see it. You're in the Pack. Jaguars at the Colts. Seth is taking the Colts. This is one of the weirdest games. I don't feel confident in really either of these teams. I guess I'll take the Colts It's a have-to-have-it game for the playoffs. The Jaguars are terrible. Mac Jones is their starting quarterback. Talk about quitting. They quit against the Lions. They quit all the way back when they played Detroit. So I can't imagine what they're feeling right now. In-division rivalry, indoor environment, I guess. I don't know. The Colts are technically still alive in the hunt. So, yeah, give me Indy. Bills at the Patriots. I feel like we just had this game, but Seth is obviously taking the Bills, and I am also obviously taking the Bills. I don't care if it's at New England. They're tanking, obviously. They're trying to get that #1 overall pick. Travis Hunter, you are a New England Patriot. Yeah, give me the Bills. I got nothing else to say. Josh Allen is an MVP. He's very good. Giants at the Eagles. Another game of teams that I wish would just go away and die. Seth is taking the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, you can't take the Giants here, despite Drew Lock's elite performance last year. It's probably not going to translate. I would imagine Jalen Hurts is just not going to play regardless because the Eagles have already won the division with the win last week over the Cowboys. There's no reason to rush Jalen Hurts in a final week game that does not matter for the Eagles seed-wise. They can't get the #1 overall seed. But the Giants are also just sort of playing for the tank. So they're just hoping that a bunch of teams win and they lose. I guess that's their hope. So, yeah. Give me the Eagles. It's going to be probably a pretty boring game. Saints at the Buccaneers. Jeez, are we ever going to disagree on any, Seth? He's taking the Buccaneers. I am also taking the Buccaneers. The Saints lost to the Raiders. That's pretty much all I have to say about them. That's bad. That's very, very bad. You don't want to lose those games to the Raiders. That I thought that the Saints didn't have a quarterback. The Raiders also don't have a quarterback. But apparently, the Raiders have more of a quarterback than the Saints do. It's not good. New Orleans is looking for a new head coach. This year is basically a complete wash. Derek Carr is cooked. Spencer Rattler stinks. It's not good. It's very not good in New Orleans. Buccaneers, I think they're going to win pretty easily here. Texans at the Titans. Seth is taking the Texans. Jeez, this is a really terrible slate. Yeah, give me the Texans. The Titans are terrible. Houston at least can be somewhat fun sometimes, although pretty inconsistent overall this year for the Texans. I believe they've already clinched that division, so there's not really anything to play for. Maybe they haven't clinched it. I don't know. They're not very good this year overall. A very disappointing team in Houston. And, I mean, the Titans are the Titans. So, yeah. Give me Houston. 49ers taking on the Cardinals. Seth is taking the 49ers. Geez, this is like two teams that have already been eliminated from the playoffs. They're not winning their division. This is entirely for draft position. I guess I'll take the 49ers. Maybe it's just recency bias, but they look really good on Monday night, albeit a couple of interceptions. Flip the switch there for that game, but I would imagine their offense is probably better than the Cardinals. So give me the 49ers. I'm not feeling too great about it, but yeah, why not? Chiefs at the Broncos. Seth is taking the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm obviously taking the Chiefs. We're just never going to disagree. I'm going to have to pick one that I disagree with him on. I don't know if there is one. I think we're just going to agree on every single pick. That's what it is. Yeah, Chiefs are just very good. Broncos are very not as good. Broncos are fighting for a playoff spot, though, so if they win, I believe they do get in, but that's going to be a rough going. It's tough being a Broncos fan. No, it's not. You want a Super Bowl. Get out of here. Seahawks at the Rams. Seth is taking the Rams. Yeah, Geno Smith is cooked. We saw it on Thursday, and this is going to be just the final coronation. Or the final, no. What is it? Well, I don't know. Geno Smith is dead. That's the point. Give me the Rams. Matthew Stafford going to lead the team to another division win. Another division title, I should say. Division title by default, I guess. It's kind of crazy. This team started 0-2, and they're going to win the division and make the playoffs. So good for LA, I guess. Up next, the Chargers taking on the Raiders. I already know who Seth is taking his Chargers. I'm also taking his Chargers. They clinched the playoffs last week with a win over New England. Convincing win. They blew the doors off of them. Look, Chargers back in postseason, and the Raiders just hoping that their tank can be successful because unfortunately they have really bungled it the last 2 weeks, getting 2 wins in a row. Maybe they're building a culture. Antonio Pierce, he's getting the guys going. Maybe he'll win number 3 in a while. They don't have a quarterback, so they're gonna have to. Bad. It's bad in Vegas. It's very bad. Give me the Chargers. Dolphins at the Jets. Seth is taking the Fins. All right, you know what? I'm gonna actually disagree. I'll just take the Jets, just for the sake of some potential. I can gain something on Seth going into the postseason, even though I'm pretty sure he's just going to destroy me. He's been destroying me all year on the pickup. I don't know. I hate the Jets, but I need to disagree. That's literally my entire reasoning. I think the Dolphins are probably going to end up winning, but I don't know. Well, actually, you know what? It's cold. It's cold in New Jersey. So, yeah, that's why. There you go. Jets. They'll barely win. It'll be a terrible game. And finally, biggest game of the week, Sunday Night Football. Vikings, Lions, number 1 seed, NFC North title on the line. Seth knows where his bread is buttered. He's taking the Lions. You already know. Lions. You know what? Green Bay, we'll do it ourselves. We've already beaten Minnesota. We're coming off a big win on Monday night. No injuries. We're going to go in. It's going to be our house. We're going to finish what we started. Shout out Kylo Ren. We are the current reigning NFC North champions, and we will be the two-time NFC North champions come the end of Sunday. Give me the Lions. Here we go. Rounding out the picks, Browns, Ravens, we're both taking the Ravens. Bengals, Steelers, we're both taking the Bengals. Panthers, Falcons, we're both taking the Falcons. Commanders, Cowboys, we're both taking the Commanders. Bears, Packers, we're both taking the Packers. Jaguars, Colts, we're both taking the Colts. Bills, Patriots, we're both taking the Bills. Giants, Eagles, we're both taking the Eagles. Saints, Buccaneers, we're both taking the Buccaneers. Texans, Titans, we're both taking the Texans. 49ers, Cardinals, we're both taking the 49ers. Chiefs, Broncos, we're both taking the Chiefs. Seahawks, Rams, we're both taking the Rams. Chargers, Raiders, we're both taking the Chargers. Dolphins, Jets, Seth is taking the Dolphins. I am taking the Jets. And finally, Vikings, Lions, we are both taking the Lions. And those are your Week 18 NFL picks, final picks of the regular season. Woo! Woo! All right. So that's it. That's the end of the show. This is a long show. We're almost 2 hours live, man. We talked about a lot. But, all right. Look ahead to next week. Sunday night, we'll be live. We'll be watching that game. Minnesota, Detroit. All the marbles on the line. And then we'll be back regular time We'll be back regular time on Tuesday of next week to start the calendar year. Everybody have a happy and safe new year. Don't do anything stupid. All right. I don't want to hear any news stories on local channels. All right. I don't want to hear about any of that. Have a good night, good night. I'm so used to doing that. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. And I will see you all on Sunday night for Lions Vikings. See you later. Have a good rest of your day. Happy New Year.